Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We are going to speak about some enhancement to our EMV Level 3 execution in PaytestHub. We have some new add-ons on how we can run the Fime BTT and the ICCSimTMat, and that's the focus of the presentation today. For everyone who has been with us previously, there are two separate recordings really diving deep into the individual tools. So there's one for the Fime BTT and there's one for the ICCSimTMat. Both are on our YouTube. We're going to share the links with you, or you can see them on our YouTube channel. And there you can have a one-on-one session in the topic, the enhancements on both. And to know our audience a little bit better, I just wanted to start a little poll so that we know which tool you are using. Are you using the Fime BTT or more the ICCSimTMat or both? It's a multiple choice. Or do you use another tool which we don't focus on today, such as PaytestHub, for example? So I'll leave this a little bit open for a moment so everyone has a chance to give their votes and we see a little bit better on what we could focus. But that seems to be pretty even, almost a tie. I'm gonna publish that. So we have 30% BTT, 40 on the ICC, and 57 on other tools. So we're gonna make this more or less an even. And then another question for you before we start, would like to understand a little bit, how much do you actually test? Are you more on the 0 to 3, 3 to 5, 6 to 10, or 10 plus certifications a year? So are you just getting into level 3 certifications, or are you an absolute power user? That would also be great to understand. Everyone seems to be a bit more on the lower side, 0 to 3 and 3 to 5, which is totally fine. It's also quite normal and what we expect and see most often. It's rare that somebody does 10 plus certifications. Great, thank you. So today, what can you expect? We're gonna first speak about the basics of the EMV Level 3 automation, what is needed that you can get started with the automation. Then what's new in terms of technical product enhancements. We're gonna give you a live demo, and then we have time for questions and answers. Please don't hesitate to drop the questions into the Q&A session already during the webinar, so that at the end we can only focus on answering them. So here's the Q&A. I'm just gonna drop a question there. So we use that one, don't use the chat, and then we can highlight that for everyone afterwards. Great, then Mattia, I will hand it over to you. Show us what's new.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mattia. I'm head of technology at PaytestHub, and I will show you a bit what is new, how does level 3 work, and what can we do with it. I hope the screen is visible. So David, please wink in case it wouldn't be. As the agenda was already set by David, I would like to go on and maybe start with asking what do you actually need for the level 3 certification. So what do you do in case you need to do a level 3 certification? The answer is you need a few components. One is you need tester or testers that can execute this. You need a PaytestHub that can show you the first results. You need the card probes, and of course you need testing tool that can at the end verify the results incomplete. And then you need the targeting terminal. So the terminal is being tested with the testing tool, but however, we try to use our probes. We can show a lot of the progress inside the PaytestHub, and testers are so far the ones that have to do it manually, but I will show how this can be automated. So let's do that. How did we even approach the issue, and what do we actually do? So we defined something which is a melee state machine. So we always have a state and we have an action. What does this mean? We know that our end goal for the test case is to execute a transaction. In order to fulfill this goal, we need to execute all the steps that are necessary for a transaction to be successful. So what we do is we try to figure out in what kind of state the terminal is at the moment sitting in, And then, based on the state we are in, we define the action. Once we have the action executed, we need to check again in what state is the terminal in. So if I go into a detail, if the terminal says insert card, we insert the card. So if the terminal says enter PIN, we enter PIN. So it's always a state, and then comes the action. Based on the action, there's a new state, and we repeat this until the transaction is done. Once the transaction is done, we bring everything to the initial screen, and we are happy with the results and can pass it on to the level 3 tool. So how does the whole architecture look like? That's a very brief and small diagram that can explain this in detail. So we have our PaytestHub, which is UI layer, so it just shows the results. We have a level 3 accredited tool. This could be the ICC, it can be the BTT, it could be something else as well, but today we are focusing on these two. And then we have the action resolver and we have the state determiner. So we determine the state and then we resolve what kind of action. How do we get the state determined? We are using certain stuff that are observing the terminal. So we have a webcam that can be observing the terminal. In case the terminal is ADB enabled, which may or may not be, we can get a lot of data out of this. And if we have a ECR protocol, so let's say it's a semi-integrated, we can get a lot more data, which tells us exactly in what kind of state the terminal is. And once we know in what kind of state it is, we basically, or once we get the data about the state, we basically go into our states file. So it's a DB of all the states that we know. If it's not inside, we go on and we ask the AI, say, hey, we have such a screen on the terminal. Could you let us know what do you think the state could be? So the AI can tell us back, it could be a DCC, or it's prompting you for a card entry, or it's doing something else. Once we have the state and we are sure and happy with the state, we go on and we go to the action. So we have another DB that says for each state, what kind of actions does it need to be done? So let's say if it's a PIN, we should enter PIN. If it's an idle screen, we maybe want to select the sale. If it's the state to remove the card, we remove the card or insert the card in case it prompts us for the screen. And this is something that is constantly flowing. So we are determining the state, we are doing the action, next state, action, and so on. And once we are done, we send back the results, and the level 3 tool basically gives us back the final result and the final wording saying the test case has passed or failed. How does the tool know, or why don't we say this, and why do we have to ask the tool? The tool has much more data than we have because they are also doing the APDU logs. So they are checking how is the communication between the terminal and the card processing, or how was this processed, and are all the fields really set in the way that there should be. So the components that we have the PaytestHub. We have something like a PayTest core for the client. So we have a big machine. It's a server in a box where we allow the users to plug everything in, not to disturb any networks that would be there. We obviously have the robots. We have probes in case necessary. In case possible, we have the Android debug bridge or ADB. There's the level 3 accredited tool, ICC or BTT from Fime. And in case necessary, there's also some customized extensions. Now, most of this stuff you've seen already from the last time, but what is new and what were we up to in the last weeks, I will quickly explain, and I will also explain how to understand everything a bit better. So the enhancements, one was we implemented the application selection. We added the inconclusive state. We changed and adapted the states and action setup, including the AI that came along. And of course, we worked a lot on the stability, reliability, repeatability, and everything else to make the system really working exactly the way it should be working. Application selection. What's even the problem there? Why didn't we have this yet, or what was the thing? So imagine we get from the level 3 tool such a JSON out of which we have to create a test case. So it tells us, please create a sale, please use the insert card, application label will be the Visa credit, the PIN, if in cases there is 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Based on this, we have to then go into the states and actions and figure out what it is. So our problem was which application needs to be selected. This is something we get. Then we need to identify on the screen the buttons. Where are they positioned so the robot can go there and press? So find the coordinate and then press accordingly. And last but not least, also record what were all the possibilities that were there. And then the second is, I mentioned before, the inconclusive state. So I would like to stop here quickly and explain a bit on how can we understand the results and the possible outcomes on the test case. I mentioned before, we have a state, we have an action, and we are trying to execute this. If transaction fails, it fails. We are not really bothered. It's for us just one way. We don't know what the real outcome should be, or we also don't bother. We let the level 3 tool to define the results. But once the results come back, we get the result passed. So execution was done, all parameters were verified, and they were correct. The test case in this case is completed and doesn't need any verification. So this test case is passed and done, and nothing else is needed. Then failed. Obviously, the execution was done. One or more verification failed. Thermally probably needs a software fix. So test case was executed. Everything should have been okay, but it was not. Mostly this means there is an APDU failure, maybe a PIN didn't appear, maybe there was something else. So it has to go back to the software development team, and they have to do something with it. Then we have the third one, and this one is a very important one. It's an inconclusive state. So execution was done. It looks like everything is okay so far, but there is some verifications that could not be verified. What does this mean? A lot of test cases need host logs. So they need some logs that we cannot get, provide, or even feedback in. So it's out of our control. This means that everything we have done in that case is okay, but there could be something missing. Second possibility is if there is a manual validation, something that we don't we haven't responded, or we didn't understand the question and we didn't respond. In that case, it's exactly the same. We don't have the test case that is completely set, and it needs to be verified on the side of the level 3 accredited tool. I will explain you and show you later on example. And then last but not least is error. So error means that there was an error in execution. We cannot say if the test case either passed or failed because it just wasn't executed correctly, and it's okay. Usually this means that the states and actions files needs attention, but there could be also other stuff. So if a terminal reboots, it's one of the possibilities. One of the things is, I don't know, camera breaks down, robot breaks down, or something like this. So there is something physically wrong, and we couldn't get all the states, we couldn't execute all the actions, and that's why this is an error, which means that it needs an extra attention and it needs some stuff around. So let's go maybe quickly to the demo setup before, so I can explain you what will you be seeing today, and then I will go into each configuration. I will show you a bit the actions and states files, and then we will of course run some test cases before we go to the QA section. So the setup one, we will be using the Castle Saturn 1F2. It's equipped with the Brantix or Wordline software. It's a standalone terminal. The state resolution, so we will resolve the state with combination of ADB and OCR. Actions will be a combination of robot T4 and as well ADB. I will show you and explain you that a bit. In the background, the test tool will be the Fime BTT version 5.8. And the location of this robot is in Zurich, in Switzerland. Please keep in mind this is like 50 or 70 kilometers away from where I'm sitting, but I will still be able to execute this remotely. And then we have a setup 2, which will be using the Ingenico DX8000 equipped with Moneris software. So Moneris was kind enough to let us show also a few of their test cases. Setup is still standalone. The state resolution in this case will be used exclusively OCR. So maybe if you see on this setup, there's a camera that is watching down on the terminal, but the terminal is also connected via USB to the PC. In that case, we have just camera and camera only. Actions are using exclusively through robot T1. So we are using the smaller robot here. And the test tool in this case is ICC Auto API and of course the PayTest probe, as you can see here. And the second one is placed also for the contactless. The location of this is in Koper, Slovenia, so it's about 700 kilometers away from where I'm sitting right now. Both of them should be runnable, so I can explain and show a bit afterwards. Okay, so let's go to the demo and show where we are at. So I will go like this, and I will go like this, and I will go like this. So if we start with the demo, that's my demo environment. We have our agents page where I can check all of the different setups that we have ready. Right now, I will focus on the T4 Castle standalone. This is the one that we'll be using for the level 3 execution. What we have is an ADB. Obviously, it's a black screen because the terminal is sleeping. I will turn it on any second now. If we check the camera, it should be basically the same, just a black screen, which we will then have a look and see what does it do. Beside there, we have a BTT extension, so extension that can talk to the BTT, and then we have the robot, which is basically the robot. I have a remote connection to the PC. So on the connection where the robot and our setup is running, we have a brand test tool running. Brand test tool has a BTT automation, which is right now already automated or started and is waiting for the commands. So what they're waiting for commands like this. For commands like this, like initiate test case, where we see everything possible that we send. And based on this, they let us execute the test case. So if I go and maybe turn on the terminal, it's not something that we need to do, but I would just like to show and explain how does this look like. So if we go and we wake it up, it should appear and it should show its main screen. I can of course check also with the camera how does this look like. It won't look so nice as it looked on the ADB, but it's important to see what do we need for the ADB, for the OCR to also see. So the OCR sees basically the same picture. It's just one is coming directly out of the terminal and the other one is observing it from the top. Good. Let's have a look what we have.
There are questions, don't hesitate to drop them already in the Q&A section so you don't forget them and we can answer them at the end.
Yes. Okay. So we have the EMV Level 3 player here. we can select on what environment do we want to do this. I will select the T4 Castle standalone, and then I get a list of all the projects that we have. So we have the A920M card, but we have also the webinar visa. This is the one that I will run right now. So as you see, I practically run all of the test cases, not all passed, just a few actually, handful passed. The rest are missing, are mostly inconclusive, but there's also a few failed. And this failed means that there is still some work to do in order to really make them work as it goes. So we are able to filter them under the failed or investigate or however we would like to see. I don't know, if we would want to focus only on the failed, we would see only of the failed. If we would want to focus on the failed and not run, we would want to go there. Or we go basically, say we are interested in all. So we go like this and we do all. We can also say, hey, I'm interested just in contactless. I'm interested just in certain brand if we have many brands, and so on and so on. So it allows us to filter and sort stuff out. Let's go ahead and select a few test cases. I will select one that I know it's application selection. This is the TC24, and then let's go and select a few contactless as well. And let's run this. So when it runs, first thing we see is that the ADB, which is turning on, the terminal is still sleeping, and also the OCR have to turn on. Otherwise, we have troubles. Once this happens, the robot starts moving and starts to execute the test cases. So as you see, as we are progressing, the PaytestHub or the Paytest player is defining the states. So these are the upper, and the lower are then the actions that are being executed. So we came into a very, very funny state right now with the contrast. To see where it is. Let's see if it will save itself. If it won't be able to save itself because we don't have the state, then it will also obviously have to start the next test cases. And this one will fail in error because it will say I couldn't come on because the state was missing. But as we go there, I can quickly explain what else are we doing. We are also measuring the used memory of the whole test case and the battery level as well as the CPU usage. So we are checking all the time also the vitals of the terminal to see if we can find some discrepancies. Okay, so it went back and it resetted. It said it's a general error and it will continue with the next test case. We can obviously repeat that one and continue then afterwards. Let's quickly watch this test case and then I will go back and explain a bit more about the states and actions file. So maybe this screen right here is very, very interesting because ADB is not able to pick it up and we have to rely on OCR. The reason is that the banner is moving on the top, and as long as something is moving, we cannot get the text out of the ADB, but we get only the response. So these test cases got aborted. So obviously the host didn't really like the response. So we just file back, this is a general error, and we go to the third test case. This means that the terminal in that case had an error. It can be either a backend host problem. It can also be the terminal failure, which goes back then to the software developers. One more thing that is very important here is the states and actions files. The states and actions files are located under the agent. And right now, this is a big XML file where we have all the states. So maybe I start with the states, where we have all the states defined. And the states are defined with basically writing how do you define a state. That's basically directly and very simple, exactly as it's written here. If the state is not defined or if it cannot be found under here, then it goes back into the AI and basically asks the AI. When it asks the AI, we give a set of possible answers, and based on all the data that it has, it defines what kind of state it is. So if we are in a certain state, then it goes and says what the action should be. So in case we are in the main menu, the action is press on the transactions with the robot and then move the arm away. Or if we are in transactions and we should press the sale, then we have one possibility. If we should go to the refund, we have the other possibility, and so on and so on. So this is basically how a state and action file is created. Right now, this is an XML file. As next one, this will become a nice UI where we basically give you the list of all the possible states. The user will be able to select and define the rules behind each of the states. So while this is executing here, let's quickly jump to the other environment from Moneris, where they also have a terminal. They have a DX8000. They have the ICC. So that's an ICC. That's an ICCSimTMat, which showed more or less the test cases that were also executed. In this case, I'm showing the discovered test cases, but I will be running a visa, or maybe I will be running the discover. We can even select a few from different ones. So let's quickly go here to the Moneris. Very similar as before. We have, instead of the BTT, we have the Auto API. We also have a max type because we have also the fallback scenarios. We have an OCR camera, and then we have two different probes, contact and contactless, and of course there is the robot as well. So let me quickly enable this and maybe show the OCR. So the OCR here should be again all black because the terminals these days always go to sleep. So I will save and I will run also on this side the EMV Level 3 player, and then we'll go from there. So when we are saving, we are basically initializing everything from the beginning, including the API. Okay, so let's go quickly to the EMV player. We have the Axiom DX8000, and then we get all the possible test cases. Let's go to Visa and maybe select a similar set as we have now. As you see here, practically all the test cases were successful. I will again select something with the application selection and maybe a contactless one as well. So let's have a look. If everything is fine, the terminal should now wake up. We wake it up in the way to insert and eject the card, and then we let our state and action file define and see where we are at and what is happening. So if the screen becomes black, means that the robot is covering and that it's being something pressed in. So we were in the purchased amount entry. It goes into the tip. Now the card will be inserted. We will select the language. If there will be PIN, we will enter the PIN. this one asks also for the cashback. And then we have the processing, and we'll see where we are at and what happens. So this first test case was successful, which we also reported back to the ICC. And the ICC will tell us if this was really everything as it should have been. One thing I didn't show before, regardless what happens, so we have the test apps, but not only this, we also have the images to check what exactly was happening. So every state is being then documented, so you can then see what did we see and how did we act. This comes extremely handy afterwards if there is questions that we might have missed or weren't able to respond. The user can always go back and verify what exactly was happening and what was the outcome. Was there really a pin screen and everything else? So it's even an additional result, even an additional proof that something did indeed happen.
Are those shared in the report afterwards, Mattia? Or just
yes,
within
those
PaytestHub?
are all, these ones are shared in the report of the PaytestHub. The level 3 certification tool does not require us to share much other than receipts in some cases. I must add that sharing the receipts as of now is not supported yet directly via the API. However, we are able to get the receipts already now. So we have now a very interesting test cases. This one here, which is with the application selection. So as the transaction will be selected, there will be an application selection, and the application selection will then select the one that is necessary. So as you see, there was like five different possibilities, and we had to select the Visa 3, which we at the end did. How did we do this? We basically asked the robot, can you give me the position where the Visa credit 3 is? And then we say now to the robot, please press on this position. The transaction passed through, which was successful and completed, which is a great sign. And last but not least, it will go to the 1003A, which is a contactless test case. And it looks basically very similar as all the rest that were happening before. So the setup is relatively easy. It's the states and actions file, at least at the beginning, are a bit difficult to write if you have written them the first time, but this is a one-time job. So you write it once and then it scales to practically all the test cases, unless the UI changes dramatically or unless the test cases change dramatically. Otherwise, you can run this whenever. And what it also enables you to run repeated. So if you're in the middle of certification and you have to all the time repeat and see and try that, will it really work? Will it not work? It makes sense to automate because all of the test cases will be automated. If there is a failed one for whatever reason, then you can basically just repeat them and try them again afterwards.
Mattia, speaking of state and action, there's a question which I would like to highlight. State and actions are provided with predefined template and require customization from automation tool users, right? So maybe could you show how we can set up the state and action files?
Yes, so this is exactly how it is. Right now, as long as the UI is not done as properly and complete, this is something that not only we help, but we will help set up. But yes, what it is, it's basically an XML file where you have to define the states. The states are static, and we have documentation written how can you name them. When you name the state, you basically write the rules. How do you see the state, or how do you come into the state? What has to happen? So it's very it's a it's a relatively simple process. So you just explain everything that should be seen there. So let's find a main menu says it should be the purchase and the refund and pre-authorization and the balance and the gift and the card. Everything that you see here should be visible at the same time there. That's with the and sentences. We obviously also have the or sentences, so we can say we have to have the balance and the tab, but it shouldn't be any refund or pre-authorization, or there shouldn't be any single. So you can then really write quite a vocabulary to find all the potentials. As I mentioned before, that's just one way. You can also rely on the AI. The problem of AI is that is not 100% reliable. It can decide every time for a bit different thing. If you have a very well set camera, if you have a very well set ADB, there will not be a problem. But if the setup is not as nice, then it could make some problems. So we still suggest and recommend the states and actions files, but the AI can do also the job. So once you have the states defined, you go to the actions and you define basically again the same states, and you say for each of the state, what would you like to do? It's just as a step in a normal test case. So if you need to insert the card, and let me quickly find this state. So if we have the present card state with the interface contact, so if we have the present card and we should insert the contact card, what we say is we capture the screen. So you see what happened. We insert the card, we remove the head away so the camera can still see, and then we make another picture so you see before and after this happened. If there is a, I don't know, tap not accepted, then we again define different actions, and what we always add is a capture, so you really have an exhausting system of all the test cases, of all the images that could be.
Perfect. In view of time, we have 20 minutes left, and there's quite a few questions. I suggest that we move into the Q&A, and unless you want to highlight something else.
No, this is for the moment now. Let's see where the questions bring us, and I'm sure there will be a few things that
for sure. Yeah.
Say.
Okay, so let's see. If a test fails halfway through, can the automation recover or continue from the next test case?
Yes, so there is a few things that you can do. One things are the routines. I haven't spoken about much, but what you can basically do, you saw before the terminal was sleeping at the beginning, so you have to wake it up. For this, you don't have to rely either on level 3 or on anything else to wake it up. What you can do is you define a step-up routine where you basically say, let's wake up the terminal. In that case, is this insert eject, and we release the probe. So that's one of the ways how to do it. That's the step-up routine. We also have the recovery. So in case the test case fails, we say, hey, go there and press all the combination possible to really bring it to the idle. But that's not the only, and that's just a static way. If you have a static way to abort the transaction and bring it on, you can do it like this. You can also define certain stuff in the states and actions files, and I've came across just before, and I will quickly show you. So before there was here halt. So you can always say if you're in the state present card, but it's a halt, so you should bring it back to the idle because the test case failed. then you should do all sorts of things. So in case you're in the state present card, then you should press 6. In case you're in the state of pin, you should press stop and bring it back, and so on. So it's not only the state, it's the state where the terminal is, and also the state of the test case is important. Based on this, you can always bring it back to idle and start fresh with the next test case.
Then let me see your project. We are currently using your solution for regression and stress testing. How can we upgrade it to use it for EMV Level 3?
I will let David answer this, because if you have already our solution.
Well, yeah, it's rather straightforward. So what you need is obviously you need to have a tool, and then you get a add-on from us, the EMV Level 3 player, and you're basically good to go. So you add your tool, either if you have the ICC, you will use the PaytestHub probes from us to automate it on the robot, or if you have the BTT, you use the SmartLink SmartWave directly as your probes on the terminal, or if you have the Smart Connect, that will go into the multiplexer, and then you just add this to your existing environment. So it's rather straightforward. The only thing you have to do is then the state and action file, and afterwards you're good to go. So we certainly get in touch that we can see that we can upgrade you that way. Can you briefly explain what needs to be prepared for automation to execute from user's perspective? I think that goes a bit into the same, Matthias.
But yes, but still, let's quickly explain. So what you need to do, given that you have all the whole equipment and everything that you need, what you need to do is you need to set up your agent locally, wherever you are. And you need to define all the extensions. We obviously will help you with this, but you need to define everything that you will use. So obviously you need something to get the state out. So it's either a camera, can be ADB, can be a combination, as we shown before. Then in case you will be using the BTT, you need the BTT extension. In case you will be using the ICC, you need the ICC extension. This is all software. This is just a configuration which takes you basically a few minutes to set up. So what you set a new extension, you select what kind of extension it is. Could be the ICC, could be the robot, could be the max stripe, could be ADB, whatever you need. You add it and you set it up. Once you have this, you can try to move the robot. You can try to see if you have this ready. Number 2, you need to use your tool. So in case you use the brand test tool, you start with the brand test tool with the addition of, and let me quickly see if I have the license manager, with an addition of integrated test automation module. If you have the ICC, you need their additional API, which is called the Auto API. You need to install it based on the instructions that come from there. So you basically install an additional software. Once you have the setup on our side, so the extensions and everything, and the level 3 tool is also running and is listening for the commands, you start with the states and actions files. States and action file is, as I mentioned before, something that we do in advance already. So we help you and prepare them, and you have everything ready. Of course, we need also your terminal in order to do that. And once the states and actions files are done, there is not much more that you can do. You need still the TSC file, so you can actually create and open the project. And the last thing that you have to do is press run and check what is happening. At the beginning, 2, 3, 7, 12 test cases, you will have to probably check to see if everything is fine. And afterwards, when you're confident, you basically just run them and you go. So what you can do is you select the projects that you have, and you basically can say, hey, I want to select all, and let's run them. And when it starts, it will run all of them. I think such a project takes about an hour and a half. And at the end, you can come back and see what happens. This means that you don't need to be here sitting and watching, but you just let it run. And at the end, the only thing you can do is verify the results. If there's something not the way you want it, you can always check the images, what was happening, and the steps, which tell you where did something go wrong.
Thanks, Matti. Yeah, this brings me to the next question, the hour and a half. The question is, how long does it typically take to do a full L3 automated run compared to manual testing? So 1 hour and a half for the automation.
That's a visa. Yeah, this was a visa. The contact and contactless goes around an hour and a half. It depends a bit on your project, on your scope, on everything. In comparison with the manual testing, I couldn't say it's much faster. Of course, a bit faster it is because it doesn't take breaks between the test cases, but it just goes and executes all of them. However, what is more important is that it's consistency. It's just executing one after another. And let's say that the software development fixes a bug and wants to restart and retest. It will always go from the beginning and to the end till the end. It won't do just a test case 08 that might have been failing before, but it will run all of them. So in this hour, while you might go out for lunch, you might be done with the day and you go home and you want to check just the day before, it will be always running.
And that's one of the highest benefits of automation, isn't it? That you can repeat the whole scenario all the time and the quality is always the same. Super important. So this question came twice. I'm just gonna highlight it once, but the question is, does it only work with Android devices or also with legacy terminals?
No, it works exactly the same with the legacy terminals. So we have the Android devices because this is practically a standard today. But it doesn't really matter because also here we are using just OCR. So we have a physical camera checking the screen. It's not much different than it would be on a legacy device. So it won't allow you to add the ADB on top, but still it will execute the level 3 with no problem.
Then here about the integration with other tools. So will you integrate with other providers apart from ICC and BTT?
So as far as I know, there is no other automation available, so no other API available. But in case there would be one, we are agnostic to the tool, so we don't really want to limit ourselves. So if there's a PayHuddle or Galit or some other tool that would present an API for automation, we would be happy to automate there too.
What we are working on with PayHuddle is the integration of the PayTest probe into the tool so that you can also use that, but then it's manually done. So maybe in the future, there will also be an automation module. We keep you updated about that progress. And we have a question if somebody could use both tools at the same time on the robot. Is that feasible?
Yes, it's feasible with a remark. So as long as, if we go back to the image that I showed before, how does our layout look like? So as long as the PayTest probe is mounted there, this can work. But for the BTT to be used, you would have to put in between a multiplexer, so something to bring the signal from a probe from Fime onto the PayTest probe, which is possible, but you need the multiplexer in between. And the ICC works in the, directly out of the box with the PayTest probe, so there's no problems.
If you would have two terminals, though, one could use a BTT and the other one the ICC.
That's absolutely no problem. So this is also what we have in Slovenia. We have one PC and we have 4 terminals on the robot T4, and one has ICC, or ICC is right now on the T1, but one could have the ICC and the other one could have the BTT.
Then a question about the update. So how do you handle ICC and BTT updates in automation scope?
So this is something that is still manual work, unfortunately. So that's a very good question, and this is something that we need to improve ourselves, or everybody need to improve. It's very difficult to bring, especially if you're remote, to bring a new TSC file or a new application onto the PC where it's running. So as I've shown before, there is a let's say the ICCSimTMat, which gets an update relatively often. The same is with the Fime BTT, gets an update relatively often. So this has to be done manually. And not only this, when the test case is through and was run and let's say was happy, we still need to go physically to the PC where the EMV certification tool is standing to, let's say, export the TSCZ file or the XML file or whatever in order to let it have it certified. So we come just as far as the execution. The rest of the stuff is unfortunately not automated yet, and it's something we have to work on.
Well, we still need some challenge for the future, huh?
Yes.
And Mattia, is it integrated with MasterCard MAS simulator?
So that's a thing of the EMV Level 3 tools. In case the tool is integrated, if this connection is done well, then of course the host logs will be automatically updated and will be ready to be verified on the fly. So in that case, you would see much less of this investigate signs like here, where the host logs are basically failing or missing.
Just elaborate what the MAS simulator is for people who haven't heard of that.
So it's a MasterCard simulator that is in the background talking, where the terminal is talking to the host, and on the other side is connected to the EMV Level 3 tool. So the network logs, which you see here, are empty, can be automatically filled in.
Great, thank you. We have a couple more questions left in the chat and a few more minutes. So if you want to have something answered today, then drop them right now. Otherwise, we always can do one-on-one follow-ups as well. And but let's make the most of the hour. So here's the next one for you. In CI/CD, can we trigger a regression job that reuses the state and action framework but consumes a regression parameter mix?
Matrix, yeah, very good question, and very, very good question. And this is something we have on the roadmap very, very quickly. So instead of having the EMV Level 3 certified tool, we could feed also a very basic JSON script saying just use this, that, and that, using that card, creating a regression test. So as of right now, not possible, but it's one of the things that we want to do as fast as possible. It's a very good question, and it's something that I'm craving for since a while.
It's going to be a topic for our next webinar then, huh? Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully.
And right now, the last one in our pipeline, are there any limitations you're still working on to overcome?
Yes, there is a few limitations that we still need to overcome. That's a good question. So maybe let's check quickly. I will see. There's often a test case has a manual validation. So that's just one of them. As an example, asking any outcome is acceptable as long as the device finishes the transaction. This one is very simple. So we say transaction was done, so this was okay. Some test cases, let's say here, says please confirm that what you saw was Visa credit, Visa debit, Visa credit to Visa debit, and so on. Such questions are sometimes difficult to respond, and this is one of the things that we have to still work on. to improve ourselves. We are making now, we have a lot of questions that we can answer already, but there is still a few questions that we are unable to answer, or at least unable to answer properly. And as we are not able to answer them, they remain here as a failed. And sometimes what happens is that you can just go and confirm this directly here, and the test case becomes immediately passed instead of failed. However, yeah, this is still one of the things that needs to be done. Second, as I mentioned before, there's also the UI part of the states and actions files. This is also something that we need to improve and make it some customer friendly. This is one of the things that we'll be working now to improve. But till then, we of course help the users to set up them. And once you have them set up, it's not a big problem to maintain.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mattia. There's no more questions in the chat, so I think we wrap it up here nicely, a little bit ahead of time. So what I do is I just leave one more poll open for you if you would like us to follow up with a one-on-one or you want to have some pricing information. Let us know, and then yeah, I just want to say thank you everyone for joining. It's really nice to see that you all are so interested in our product offering and solution. We are always happy to give you more information and insights, and make sure to follow us on socials so that you don't miss the next webinar invitations. Until then, have a wonderful time, and we speak soon again. Thanks, Mattia, for hosting.
Thank you, David, for preparing this.
You're welcome. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.